My name is Clara. I'm a nurse at a small private hospital in the province, and what I'm about to share with you isn't fiction, it's something that really happened. You see, I was born with a third eye, the kind that lets you see what most people never do. I'm not the only one like this. But even now, with all the stories I've heard and the strange things I've seen, there are some experiences that haunt me. Even before I started working in the hospital, as a child I was terrified. But as I got older, I started getting used to it. The moment I started working at the hospital, something changed. It was my very first day on the job, still getting used to my uniform, still memorizing room numbers. I was walking toward the hospital entrance when I bumped into someone, a frail older man. I instinctively reached out to steady him and muttered, "I'm so sorry." But when my hand passed through him, I froze. He wasn't solid. He was cold air, dense and heavy, like a fog you can't see. As he walked past me, I slowly turned to look. He was staring back at me, not angry, not sad, just watching. We locked eyes for a few seconds. I was the first to look away. When I looked again, he was gone. Just like that. I stood there, stunned, until my friend and fellow nurse Noah tapped me on the shoulder. "What are you doing out here?" he asked. "Why haven't you gone in yet?" I made up some excuse, said I thought I left my tumbler at home. It was a lie. Noah knew about my third eye. We'd been friends since childhood. But I still didn't tell him what I saw. I didn't like talking about it. Not to my family, not even to people who believed me. I just kept it to myself. But when we got to the lobby, I couldn't help but reach for Noah's arm. The air inside was thick, heavy, unwelcoming. I had been to this hospital before, of course, during training and orientation. But this was different. It felt like something was watching me. That day I only saw the old man once. I'm at the entrance. But later that night, just as I was leaving, I saw him again. The old man, standing at the entrance of the emergency room, staring into the distance. This time he didn't look at me, and I didn't wait around to see if he would. I walked away quickly, heart pounding. Days passed, but the old man never left. Sometimes I'd see him at the ER entrance, other times near the stairs, once just standing by the vending machine, still, silent. He never moved toward anyone, never spoke, just stood there, always watching. I began to wonder, should I try to talk to him? But I couldn't bring myself to do it. I had never spoken to a spirit before, and I didn't know what he wanted, or what might happen if I opened that door. Eventually, my friend noticed how distracted I'd become. "You keep looking over your shoulder," he said. "Want to tell me what's going on?" I finally gave in and told him everything. He didn't laugh, didn't look shocked. He just nodded. "Maybe he's waiting for someone," he said. "A wife, a child." "But if he's a spirit," I said, "why is he still here?" Noah thought about it. "Not all spirits move on the same way," he explained. "Some are taken by the light right away, but others, they get stuck. Sometimes they don't even realize they've died. Other times they're bound to a place or waiting for something." Noah told me about spirits strong enough to touch the living, to hold things. Those were the ones that could truly make their presence felt, but others were trapped, still tied to the place they left behind. I started thinking, maybe Noah was right. Maybe this old man was trapped, waiting for something, or someone. But part of me was still scared. What if he asked for help and I couldn't give it? What if I got pulled into something I didn't understand? That night, I lay in bed thinking about it. There was a part of me that wanted to help, but another part that just wanted peace. The next morning, I made up my mind. I wouldn't get involved. If he wanted help, he could ask someone else. As long as he didn't reach out to me, I'd pretend I didn't see him. I told Noah. He laughed a little and said, "You do know he already knows you can see him, right? Ever since that first day." He wasn't wrong, but still, I stuck to my plan. One afternoon, I was walking down the hallway. It was bright outside, but inside the hospital, it felt like twilight. Quiet, still, almost like the building itself was asleep. I held a patient record book, flipping through it as I walked, or at least pretending to. Because there he was again, coming straight toward me. I didn't look up, just acted like I was busy reading. As we passed, that same cold air brushed against me. I waited a few seconds, then looked back. He had stopped, just standing there in front of a room. I took note of the number and told myself I will check it out later when he's gone. That evening, I returned to the room. It was empty, no patients. The bed was made, curtains open. I checked the log discreetly. The last occupant was a woman, mid-50s, already discharged, and no record of any old man ever staying there. No deaths either. So why had he stopped there? Why that room? I stood there a long time, staring into that empty room, trying to make sense of it, but I couldn't. Sometimes I wonder if maybe spirits don't follow logic the way we expect. Maybe they linger for reasons we'll never understand. Maybe room 214 was where he got bad news, where someone he loved died. Or maybe it had nothing to do with him at all. And still, he kept showing up, never angry, never threatening, just there, like a bookmark in a story no one finished reading. I heard the rest of the story from one of my coworkers who'd been at the hospital longer than I had. She asked why I was so curious. I just said, "Nothing really. I thought someone I knew from back home died in that room." I didn't tell her about the ghost. Only Noah knew. He was the only one I trusted with things like that. Even Noah was puzzled. Why would the old man's spirit stop at that room? Now he was curious too. He started digging around himself. The next day, Noah came up to me with a name, John. According to him, that was the name of the elderly man who matched my description. He hadn't been confined to a room. He died in the emergency area, heart attack. They tried to revive him, but he didn't make it. Right there in the ER. Just as we were talking about him, a sudden gust of wind blew through the hallway so strong it nearly knocked me off my feet. Noah caught my arm. "Are you okay?" "What was that?" We both looked around, but there was nothing. Noah said maybe it was another spirit, a powerful one, stronger than John, who barely brushed against me when we collided. This one had force. After that, I stayed alert while doing rounds. I didn't know if what hit me was a ghost or something else, but if it had that much strength, what could it do to others? I kept looking around. Then I saw it. Black smoke, thick, moving unnaturally. I knew it wasn't just smoke. I followed it, but when it turned down another hallway and I tried to catch up, it was gone. Just like that. Now I had more to worry about. As I walked back toward the nurse station, I suddenly heard a child crying. I traced it to a nearby room. A girl, maybe 3 or 4 years old, was sobbing uncontrollably in her hospital bed. Her mother looked exhausted, trying to calm her down. I knocked on the door, asked if everything was all right. The mother let me in. She was fine earlier. She's supposed to be discharged tomorrow. But then she started crying and pointing at the door. I turned toward the door, nothing to the right. But when I looked left, I froze. Another ghost. This one was different. A large man. Intimidating. Harsh features. He stared straight at me with eyes that cut through the air. I instinctively took a step back. Then I watched as he walked into another room. I comforted the little girl, told her I'd bring her some candy if she stopped crying. It worked. She calmed down. I left the room and followed the ghost. I didn't know where I found the courage, but I needed to see what he was doing. I reached the room, just in time to see a panicked mother run out. Her son, a teenage boy, had suddenly started having trouble breathing. I rushed to help, called for a doctor, focused on my duties as a nurse. By the time things calmed down, the ghost was gone. The teenager didn't make it. A strange, heavy sadness settled over me. I didn't even realize I was crying until Noah found me. "We're nurses," he said gently. "We have to be prepared for this kind of thing." Then, about the ghost, he warned me, "Be careful. We don't know what it's capable of." He even suggested I shut my third eye, but I'd already tried many times. My mother took me to a spiritual healer when I was a child. The sight went away for a month, then came back. Nothing worked. I had come to accept it. My third eye wasn't closing anytime soon. That evening, I asked Noah to come with me to buy some candy for the little girl. I handed it to her mom first, just to be safe. When she gave the okay, I gave it to the girl. That night, as I was heading home with Noah, I glanced up at one of the hospital windows. There he was again. That same terrifying spirit, looking down at us. He was still there, still haunting, still feeding on fear. A few days later, I was moved to night shift. I won't lie, I was scared. Everyone knows spirits are stronger at night. I was more afraid of the sinister ghost now than I ever was of John. One night after break, I was heading back to my station when he appeared, right in front of me. I froze, my throat went dry. I didn't know how to face him. He spoke. His voice was deep, cold, like stones scraping together. "You see me." It wasn't a question, it was a threat. My feet backed away on their own. Every step I took back, he stepped forward. I mustered the courage to ask, "Why are you scaring the patients?" He just laughed, a deep, echoing laugh that sounded like it came from a well. That's when I knew. I couldn't reason with him. I turned and ran. He followed. I ran to the nurse station, hoping someone else's presence would stop him. But he cut me off before I got there. So I turned again, screamed for help. No one heard me, not even from the rooms. I ducked into a restroom, locked myself in a cubicle, prayed, hard. It was the only thing I could do. When I no longer felt his presence, I slowly stepped out. I reached for the door, and suddenly something gripped my neck. It was him. He hadn't left. I was gasping, thrashing. His grip was icy and strong. I knew this was the same force that shoved me. The black smoke, the violent wind. It was all him. I clawed at his hands. I didn't want to die. Not like this. Not in the hands of a ghost. Just as my vision began to dim, a voice boomed out behind him. "Let her go." He did. I collapsed, gasping, trembling. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, just lay there trying to breathe again. The cleaner boy ran to me. "Are you okay? What happened?" I lied. "I'm fine now." When he left, I searched for the ghost. He was gone. But I knew. That thing wasn't just a ghost. It was something else, something worse. I wanted to know whose voice it was, the one that made the angry spirit let go of me. Even though I was still trembling with fear, I forced myself to look for him. I found him, and he was chasing someone. I wasn't sure who, but I was certain it was the same person whose voice saved me. The hospital was a maze of hallways and corners, but I didn't care about the dizziness or the fear gripping me. I followed him closely until he stopped near one of the exits, and that's when I froze, completely stunned by who he was facing. It was the ghost of John. I quickly hid behind the edge of the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. I had a strong feeling they were connected somehow. Maybe they knew each other, maybe something more. All I knew was that something was about to happen, and it wasn't going to be good. "I've already silenced you," the old man said coldly. "And yet, even in the afterlife, you continue to disturb the living. You should have been cast straight into hell." The fierce-looking man responded with a sneer. "Even if I'm sent to the deepest pit of hell, I will never find peace. I will keep coming back for revenge." They exchanged sharp words, their tension thick in the air, as if both were sizing each other up, waiting to see who would strike first. From what I overheard, I realized that the old man, John, was actually a traditional healer and spiritual healer. And the terrifying man he called Kali was a dark sorcerer who had taken lives through black magic. It was John who had stopped him, even if it cost him his own life. Kali had been hunting him ever since, even in death. John said he had no regrets killing the people. The man had cursed a child in exchange for a large sum of money, ordered by a man seeking revenge against his own wife. Out of spite, he had their only child hexed. My skin crawled at the horror of what I was hearing. There really were people capable of such evil, willing to harm even an innocent child for personal vengeance. It was then that I truly realized even children weren't safe from dark magic. Thankfully, there were still those like John, willing to fight against such evil even if it meant sacrifice. But the sorcerer couldn't accept his defeat. Enraged, he launched himself at John. though both were now spirits. They clashed in a violent battle, fierce winds swirling and colliding like invisible forces of nature. My head was spinning, trying to keep up with their movements. They circled each other with blinding speed. I had only seen things like this in horror movies. Never did I imagine I'd witness something like it in real life. It felt like the fight would never end. Neither seemed to feel pain. Perhaps that was the nature of spirits, fueled only by rage and unfinished business. They just kept fighting, driven by their reasons, their hatred. I watched, stunned, mouth agape, heart pounding. And then, suddenly, a thick black smoke burst through the air between them, so dense it filled the hallway. I coughed hard, the stench reaching even the corner where I was hiding. I shut my eyes and covered my mouth and nose, trembling. I heard the blood-curdling scream of the vengeful spirit, the sorcerer. I covered my ears but didn't move an inch from where I was. I just stood there, frozen, with my ears covered and my eyes tightly shut. As the thick, dark smoke slowly began to clear, I saw the spirit of John standing there once again. He saw me too, but he didn't say a word. He just looked at me. From what I'd overheard during his confrontation with the sorcerer, I knew John had been a good man in life. So I didn't hesitate. I walked up to him myself and started talking. The first thing I asked was if he was okay. He nodded. Then I asked what happened to the sorcerer. Why did he suddenly disappear? Was it because of that thick black smoke that had filled the room earlier? He nodded again and said it was the smoke that would carry Kaylee to hell. I nodded back. That ghost Kaylee, he's something else, I said. He's strong. He can actually hurt the living. John told me I was right. That sorcerer carried dark powers even when he was alive and brought them with him in death. I mentioned to John the first time I encountered him, how Noah and I had researched him. He said he knew. He just didn't want to talk to me back then because he sensed my fear. I remembered always seeing him near the emergency room entrance, as if he were waiting for someone. I had once seen him pause in front of a specific room. I used the chance to ask about it. He said I was right. He was waiting for someone, which is why he always lingered at the hospital entrance. And that room he often stopped at? He knew that was where they'd meet again. He didn't get to tell me who exactly he was referring to, though, because I was suddenly called by a fellow nurse. They needed me in the ER. So I left the spirit of the healer and rushed to the emergency area. There, we were trying to revive an elderly woman. Thankfully, we were able to bring her back, but I froze when I saw which room they were bringing her into. It was the very same room where John always stopped. Something told me she was the one he had been waiting for, and I was right. Her last name matched his. After she was settled in the room, the spirit of John appeared to me again. He told me she was his wife. I was stunned. How did he know his wife would end up in that very hospital, in that exact room? He explained that, as a healer, he possessed special knowledge and powers that ordinary people didn't have. Still, he said, his power had its limits. Between the world of the living and the world of souls, only one knows everything: God. He didn't know what fate awaited his soul, but one thing he was sure of. He would be with his wife again very soon. He was waiting to fetch her. But after that, he wasn't certain how long they'd stay together in the afterlife. All he knew was that they still had a bit of time, even if only as spirits. That was enough. A fellow nurse nudged me. I hadn't even realized I was crying while staring at the old woman. I just said I remembered my grandmother. I didn't tell them I was crying because of the ghost, John, who stood beside her. He was right. Just a few days later, his wife passed away too. I had just arrived at the hospital for my shift when a coworker told me the elderly woman we had revived had died. I rushed over, and there they were, the spirits of the husband and wife. The old woman was surprised that I could see them. John was the one who explained it to her. I thought they'd still be around the hospital for a while, but in the days that followed, I stopped seeing them. I figured they must have gone to wherever spirits are meant to go. Aside from them, I still see wandering souls around the hospital. But I don't let it show anymore. I don't want to get involved, especially with someone like Kaylee, the sorcerer who nearly killed me. And ever since my conversations with John, rumors started spreading that I wasn't mentally stable. Someone must have seen me talking alone. They didn't know I really was talking to someone, just not someone alive. I can still see them to this day, but I don't dwell on it. I just close my eyes and pray. Thank you to everyone who listened to my story. If you like this, don't forget to like and subscribe.